Becoming a professional Fortnite player is a dream of millions of people around the globe, so accomplishing it is ridiculously hard. It requires an insane amount of hard work, consistency, and trying and failing more than most can stomach. In today's video, I'll be counting down 20 people who have truly made it, in that they are the current best players in the world. Reason has been around for a long time now, and there is no denying his unbelievable talent, especially not considering he is currently in 11th place on the European Power Rankings leaderboards, outperforming players like Seti, Thomas HD, and Janice in 2024. Back in Reason's true prime in 2020 and 2021, you could argue that he was the best fighter in the world, which was not weird given that he played alongside Vidil and Noah Rayleigh. These three pushed each other to become better and better at fighting, and were the founders of many mechanical moves that would later change the way people fought in Fortnite altogether. Now, the reason I can't put Reason higher up on my list is that he doesn't quite seem to have the winning potential like the others on this list when it comes to important tournaments. Now, don't get me wrong, he is super good in that he's gotten 4th, 5th, and 7th in the grand finals he's played this year. But the other players on this list are all players who are able to, on their day, take home an FNCS title. And unfortunately for us, with everything Reason has going on with maps, IRL, and of course content creation, I have a hard time seeing him take it home first in an FNCS anytime soon. What might be a very unpopular opinion is that Clix has that ability. And I would go as far as saying that if Clix wasn't a streamer and just a competitive player, he would have comfortably had at least one FNCS win under his belt. Every new season, Clix arguably has the most amount of pressure on him to perform out of any player, which is not weird given that he is by far the most popular Fortnite player in the world. This recent FNCS, he got super close in getting 4th alongside Vino, and being 1st on day 1. In addition to this solid FNCS performance, he is sitting in 5th place on the NAC Power Rankings leaderboards, over the likes of players like Cold, Kanada, and Buga. Clix nowadays understands the game to a much higher level than most. His aim has always been incredible, but his standout attribute is undeniably his mechanics. He's done mechanical moves for years that some players can't even do today, especially in laggy and important tournament endgames. If he somehow manages to limit the amount of pressure he feels and doesn't get griefed by a team who's paid off by another competitor, it's only a matter of time before he wins a major tournament. Someone who knows what it's like winning major tournaments all too well is Cammy, the 18th best Fortnite player in the world. Now, putting Cammy this low hurts given that if you go back in time just a few months and asked me who the absolute best player in the world was, then I would have said Cammy without hesitating. You see, Cammy is able to adapt and find smart new strategies better than anyone else. Cammy knows how to play against other top tier players better than anyone when he grinds, an attribute that takes years of grinding to develop. But given that this is a list going over the current best players in the world, I can't put him higher than 18th, because in the world of Fortnite competitive, the only thing that matters is performing. And recently, if you go on Cammy's Fortnite tracker, his tournament results have been impressively bad in the context of the skill he usually possesses. Next up, we have the only player coming from the OCE region, and that player is Mus. Mus, compared to someone like Cammy, isn't as good against top tier professionals, but in open tournaments and solo events, he is better. Mus is someone who has near flawless mechanics, and the beauty of his way of playing is that he can play with literally anyone and perform to a super high standard thanks to his mechanical abilities. This level of skill shines through in his tournament results, and thanks to his inhuman level of mechanical consistency, he has currently secured himself the 6th spot on the NAC Power Rankings leaderboards. In 16th, I have the most underrated player in the world, Chico. He is someone you will always see near the top of the leaderboards in ultra important tournaments like an FNCS Grand Finals or even major LAN events like the Global Championships. He is a teammate you can heavily rely on to do damage for Storm Surge and get good refreshes in endgames. Now, the reason Chico isn't super famous like the majority of the other players on this list is that he just focuses on competitive. There is a YouTube video once a year if we're lucky, and some tweets here and there, but that's about it. His standout ability is undeniably his aim, and through his performances over the last few years, he has proven that he can comfortably claim the title as one of the most consistent aimers in the world. Taking home the 15th spot for the best player currently, we have the NA prodigy Kanada. Now, Kanada is a very unique player. He talks a lot, gives fake comms on how much damage he does to his opponents more often than not.
I'm in. What's good? 150, 150. I didn't even touch him, bro. Watch out, take it out.
But at the same time, it kind of works given that he has some of the best pump aim worldwide. In a way, he often manifests the max damages by calling it out before he even shoots. I think any player who has the ability to play with Kanata will either find it easy that he talks all the time because, well, you know exactly what he's doing, which is a good thing, but some might not like it due to how much information you'll have to process on a minute-to-minute basis. Kanata is one of the most experienced players in the world, and if he really puts in a shift to become the very best in the world, I truthfully think he could. Problem is, however, that Kanata really doesn't need to win in competitive any longer. He has a vibrant and fun personality that fits perfectly for streaming, where he can be way more successful financially on a year-over-year basis than in competitive, and not having to put in as much work. Time will tell if he wants to win bad enough, because there's no denying that he can. Talking about winning, Flixie, who won the European FNCS Grand Finals just over 2 months ago, is currently the 14th best player in the world. If you've ever tuned into one of his streams or seen one of his YouTube videos, you'll see that this guy knows how to build an edit to the highest possible standard. Unlike the majority of other players on this list who are primarily carried by their aim and game sense, he's able to use his mechanics to outplay almost anyone, even in laggy tournament lobbies where having fast and consistent builds and edits is close to impossible. Flixie has seen unbelievably impressive improvement over the last 2 years, and given that he is a super hard worker who doesn't seem to slow down, the future is bright for him, and chances are high that the next time I make a video like this, he is even higher up on the list. Someone who is 1000% carried by their aim is a controller player Teeny. Much like Flixie, he has improved tons over the past 2 years. I still remember when he first won a cash cup back in 2022, and everyone on Twitter went crazy claiming that there was no chance he didn't cheat. And let me tell you, the replays didn't do him any favors either. That's how insane of an aimer he is. Thanks to a superb year with great performances throughout, he has gone from basically being a nobody 2 years ago to becoming the 6th best player in Europe according to the Fortnite Tracker Power Rankings leaderboards. The thing about Teeny is that his confidence in game is unmatched, whoever he plays against. That is probably thanks to the fact that he knows his aim will be better than the opponents in, so to say, every fight he gets in. Moving on, we have to talk about Mustache, arguably the best support player of all time. The beauty of a player like Mustache is that he sets everyone he plays with up for success. He doesn't care about being the guy in the team with the most elims as long as the job of winning games gets done. That is not to say that Mustache isn't an amazing fragger, because he is. But the way he's able to support other goats he plays with, like Malabuka or Swizzy, is just ridiculous to watch. You can tell from his playstyle that there is very little ego in this man, and that has helped him become one of the best players ever. Just outside of the top 10, we have Yamso, the unluckiest competitive player. If you don't know the story of Yamso, he has basically been DDoSed when he was about to win FNCS Grands, missed out on globals thanks to forgetting to fill out one simple form. He's had major updates to his drop spot 1 day before Grands, and so much more stuff has happened to him that I could make a dedicated video going over his unfortunate events. But that doesn't change the fact that he is one of the best players in the world. Although unlucky things have happened to him that are outside of his control time after time, he is still sitting in 3rd on the NIC Power Rankings leaderboards, just behind the 2 players we'll talk about shortly. Being able to be 3rd without having won an FNCS proves tremendous tournament consistency. I would love to see Yamso securing an FNCS win next year, because this year has seemed cursed for him, to put it lightly. Alright, it is time for the top 10. These are players with qualities the majority of Fortnite players can only dream of. I'm talking about people who have worked harder than anyone else, have unbelievable talent, and players that are smarter than people will ever give a Fortnite pro credit for. And in the 10th spot, we have Vanya. If you're not following competitive very closely, you won't even know who this player is. But let me tell you, the last 2 FNCSs, he has gotten 1st and 3rd. I'm excluding the global championships, as he unfortunately couldn't participate, even though he of course qualified, thanks to visa issues. The one thing that makes Vanya such an impressive player is how he's able to have awareness over everyone. I'm talking in an endgame filled with players, Vanya's brain will know exactly where everyone is. And in fights, he won't lose awareness over any opponents, even for a second, whether it be solo, duos, or even squads. That is how smart of a player Vanya is. This skill also allows Vanya to pull off some unbelievable clutches, and he has proved time and time again that he's one of the best ever to pull off insane clutches in top tier lobbies. The 9th spot for the best player currently goes to the poster child of Fortnite competitive, Bugha. Now, if there's any player out there who's made for the game, it's him. His way of playing looks effortless, even even in an FNCS Grands. His mouse control is pitch perfect, and as a teammate, he seems incredible. The thing about Bugha is that he can perform without having to work super hard. That's the level of talent we're talking about. He's also a multi-millionaire set for life, so he probably doesn't feel the same motivation to work as hard as some of the other players we're about to talk about. But obviously, saying that is not trying to take away from any of his achievements throughout the years. He was, and still is, one of the best to ever do it. For my 8th spot, I have the most interesting player on this list, Thomas HD. Thomas is the greatest aimer in all of Fortnite. There's no one even close. And you know how I mentioned that Bugha had talent? Well, so does Thomas. And that is also why he is 8th and not in 1st. That may sound super weird, but hear me out. I believe Thomas suffers from having the identity of a talented player. You see, most Fortnite players don't want to have the identity of someone who works super hard. For some reason in the Fortnite community, that is not respected. But being someone who barely plays and still performs to the highest standard is heavily respected. In my opinion, Thomas could be the best player in the world by a massive margin if he seriously started putting in hard work every day. But given that he has the talent to get him consistently to the top 3 in FNCS Grand Finals without having to work super hard, coupled with the fact that he honestly seems to be enjoying a game like CS more than Fortnite currently, he probably won't start putting in long shifts every day. His Globals duo Queasy, however, is not afraid of some hard work. Queasy is the best IGL who has ever touched the game. He understands how to play in stacked games to the highest possible standard. I don't even really know anyone who's close to being as smart as Queasy when it comes to game knowledge. The only one is probably the coach Bladex, but given that his mechanics are undistinguishable from acting like Tommy's, he isn't much of a threat in tournaments. Taking home the 6th spot for the best player currently, we have Cold. Earlier, I talked about how Vanya was great at clutching, and the very same can be said for Cold. There have been FNCS Grand Finals where he has pulled off more unbelievable clutches than some tier 1s have had in their entire career. Hey, I might even go as far as saying that sometimes the chance of Cold placing highly in a Grands game is higher when he's alone compared to when he's playing with his duo. There's just something that activates in him when he's left alone to solo clutch. He doesn't miss a shot nor an edit, and no situation is unwinnable with his skill set. Seeing Cold go from a creative warrior to one of the best competitive players over the last few years has been insane, and it just goes to show that if you're willing to put in the work, anything is possible. You probably didn't expect a player coming from the Asia region in today's video, but Swizzy, who used to primarily play on Asia back in the day, is the 5th best player in the world currently. The skill that sets Swizzy apart is his ability to almost never make mistakes. Most players, even tier 1 pros, have moments where they make a big mistake here and there, but with Swizzy, that for some reason happens almost never. In addition to that, he's also so good at punishing opponents the first time they make a mistake. Now, this is more normal for tier 1s, but being as quick to finish fights as Swizzy, coupled with his ability to, so to say, never make major mistakes, makes him one of the best in the world currently. He's also been putting in impressive performances this year that has gotten 1st, 3rd, 10th, and 21st in the major tournaments he's played. And in August of last year, he also took home another FNCS win. In 4th, we have someone who went from being one of the most hated players in the community to becoming one of the most loved, as well as one of the absolute best. And that is Bugha. When you see a video like this going over the 20 best players in the world, you might wonder, what is the difference between someone in 20th and someone in the top 5? Well, in the case of Bugha, is that he's got so much confidence in his abilities as a player. It doesn't matter what anyone says to him. Even when he contested Mr. Savage in Steamy Stacks back in chapter 2, he didn't care about any of the hate he got from the community. He wanted to land there because he genuinely was confident that he was better than the veterans, Savage, Benji, and Refsguard. Bugha was so good in fact that people seriously thought he was cheating. But fast forward a few years, and now we know that it was nothing but top tier skill. One of Molly's standout abilities is how he's able to consistently get double-digit elims in the duo grand finals he plays. And given that it's trios next year, he's probably going to pop off even harder. You also have to put some respect on Bugha's way of playing solo tournaments. When he really tries, he's able to have a higher win rate in tournaments than most have in pubs. He is so strategic in the way he's playing. He knows exactly what he can and cannot go for. and it almost seems like he can see into the future from the way he's playing his solo endgames. I would love to see a major solo event where he participated, because I think chances are high he would win it all. A player who has seemingly won it all this year is Pollo, the third best player currently. When you get the title as the third best player in the world, you of course have it all. Pollo has some of the best mechanics you'll ever see, his aim locks on like aimbot, and he has obviously got an elite level of game sense. But if you've ever seen Pollo fight, there are two things that stand out even more than the ridiculous aim, mechanics, and game sense. And that is the way he moves and creates angles that no other player makes. You know how sometimes you open an edit and have a shot that is super hard to hit, but you're also super hard to hit? Well, Pollo hits max damages from these angles consistently, which makes him almost impossible to fight. The way you become this good is through countless hours of playing against other players at the top of competitive. His way of improving, learning from mistakes, and adapting new plays instead of making the same bad play again is nothing short of extremely admirable. I don't think Pollo gets the credit he deserves, because he truly is a one-of-a-kind player. And that also gets him the title as the third best player currently. Just shy of being the very best player in the world, we have Vico. There have been many times in the past where he has been the best mechanical player in the world. And when he first started popping off in tournaments a few years back, few would think he would accomplish what he has today. Very often with these mechanical masterminds, what happens is that they don't take the strategic aspect of the game seriously and expect their mechanics to carry them to the best results worldwide. Vico, although very young, quickly understood that this wasn't the case. He needed to practice against the best of the best if he ever wanted to reach his goals. And this is also where he gets an unfair advantage. A lot of pros find practice a little boring. Playing scrims can be quite repetitive, but if you've ever watched a Vico stream, it seems like he genuinely enjoys the process of grinding scrims and developing his skills to become a better player. This means that in comparison to most other professionals, he's able to more effortlessly put in more work. And this results in his skill set becoming further and further ahead of the players who don't play as much. And now it's come to the point where it's almost flawless, even in lobbies with the other best players in the world. Before I reveal my pick for the best player in the world currently, some of you might have noticed that I haven't mentioned the player Veno, one of the best of all time. But as I hope I've made crystal clear prior in this video, all I care about when talking about the best players currently are results, where important tournaments weigh in heavily. And although Veno is one of the best players ever, he unfortunately hasn't had impressive enough results this year to be in my top 20 list. This is due to the fact that he's gotten 4th, 11th twice, and 15th in the major events this year. Now, with that out of the way, the best player in the world currently is none other than Peterbot, a player who has somehow managed to, 7 years after the game's release, have a higher skill gap between him and the second best player than anyone else have ever had throughout Fortnite's entire lifespan. Peterbot has the full package, the best mechanics in the world by a mile, aim that has literally gotten him accused of cheating countless times, and genuine confidence that can only come from inhuman skill. It's crazy to think that Peter had a start on console just a few years back. Then he got a PC, grinded hard, and now he's the best in one of the biggest games the world has ever seen, all at the age of 17. I don't think people understand just how impressive that is.